I really just can't help myself, can I? There's just so many things down in this basement that I really don't need, but I'm hoarding all of it because I just can't let go of any of it. I mean, look at all these sophisticated backpacks. I can't wear that many backpacks. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff. And that's not a problem I think we're going to solve today. Today, we're actually going to be working on starting our Flying City of Columbia with one iconic build to kick us off. But first, I wanted to go ahead and catch you guys up on what I've been working on because it is quite a bit. So outside of setting up some basic farms in our basement here, I've been doing a lot of raiding of different structures in the world. And because of that, I have quite the stockpile of different create items, just all sorts of different things. And none of it is really sorted in any sort of manner. I just kind of started throwing stuff into chests. I had started, with a somewhat organized setup in these 6 chests here, but it got out of hand really fast. Over here, we have our water wheel power setup for this little basic farm setup. I've been using this for crushing a lot of things. It's getting us a lot of our ores, and then of course the washing to go along with the crushing. We have a basic bee setup right here to get some wax for some of the wax copper that's in our builds. And then of course I've been swapping this out for different things. Like right here we have our smashing setup. I think before that I also had blaze burner set up there for different things. This is our XP farm that we built a little bit ago at this point, but it's basically a stone generator that converts the stone into infested stone through baking the cobblestone into stone and then haunting the stone into infested stone. Then the deployer goes back and forth, placing the stone down here. We break it, we get XP once the silverfish end up down in our water stream right here. And that has really, really helped us out because I have fully enchanted everything. You may not see the armor on me, but I am wearing full netherite armor. So let's take a peek here. We've got, of course, our elytra because we went to the end on a live stream. And we have all of our helmets with over enchanted stuff. So this is thanks to a brand new shop that we have in our shopping district that has provided us with over enchanted books, essentially. So I was able to do all that. We've got our protection 5 and all that. I've also been messing with some of that as well, which is why we have our respiration 4 on there, because they aren't selling that right now at the store. And then same with our netherite leggings. Everything's protection 5 on like literally everything. Mending and our tools are also the same. This somehow got Bane of Arthropods 5 on there as well. But lots of great gear, and it's pretty much made us kind of invincible, to be honest. But yeah, so set up in the nether, got a bunch of stuff there as well. I've been doing some trips back and forth, like I said, to all these different structures, which is also why we have all of these different spawners. So these spawners are very unique. Some of these, of course, are your vanilla, like zombie spawners and whatnot, because we can actually pick these up with our carry-on mod. We have some skeletons. We've got, zombies. I think these are kind of the regular things. Over here, we have pillager spawners. These came from some of our ships out there. Wither skeleton spawners. These are from one of the nether castles that's in the nether, of course. And then my favorite, though, an evoker spawner. So this is going to be great for getting us some totems of undying. I've actually already gotten some totems of undying from doing some raids in a local village, which honestly was super easy. So that was a little bit of fun and distraction. That's why we have all these crossbows as well. But yeah, lots of cool stuff. Then, as you can probably hear, we have villagers down below as well for our starter villager breeder and trading hall. So this was, I believe, the enchanting setup we started off with to kind of start getting us going. And I haven't really been using this since then. And then down here, we've got our very cramped trading hall. This is extremely temporary, and they will be moved out as soon as we get some of our sky buildings in Columbia. But right now, this has been kind of working out to get us some of the basic books and everything. And then, of course, over here is our very basic villager breeder. And yeah, not much to say about that. We've got some extra villagers that I think are going to be going into an iron farm very soon. Oh, yeah. Also forgot to mention, we have our different accessories as well. I've maxed out a lot of these. That's why you can see the little shines around there. This universal attractor has been so great. I wish we had that in vanilla Minecraft. But lots of cool abilities. It allows us to swim really fast, to run really fast, to have all these extra hearts. It's crazy. Anyways, back to the surface. Let's go check out our build. All right, so like I showed off in the last episode, I've been expanding our mining machine. It's got a lot more chests now. And we actually took this into the end not that long ago, and I chopped down a end city just to get some purple. I don't know if we'll ever use any of that, but we have that. End stone is extremely important, though, because we're using that quite a bit in the build today. And like I said, this has been coming in clutch very well. And way up here is our lovely schematic cannon. And this time, I smartly decided to use the sophisticated storage chest so that we can actually fit all of our items in here. Because last time when we were building the lighthouse with the schematic cannon, it was running into some bottlenecks where the items feeding it through the hoppers into some of these regular chests, it just wasn't being picked up by the cannon. So as you can see, these are very large, and so I didn't really need too many of them. But yeah, as before, lots of the frame panels coming in very handy. Because we're definitely trying to get some unique shapes in here. Lots of end stone, like I said, being used. And yeah, a little bit extra right here that just wasn't able, almost made it into two double chests, diamond sophisticated chests. And then, of course, our shulker box with our max upgrade tier 3, which we can stack 8 times the stacks in here. I'm loving this for raiding things. So yeah, all that's left, though, is to go ahead and build stuff. So we're actually building, like I said, the Sky City of Columbia from Bioshock Infinite. And to start things off, I'm not doing a 1-for-1 build of Bioshock Infinite's Columbia. That is just ridiculously big, and also there's no map for it. So I have no idea how it's even laid out. So one of the things I did want to start off with, though, is a very iconic building from Columbia that you first encounter as you start the game and finally make your way up to Columbia, and that's Hudson's Fine Clothing. It is a mobile shop that actually has like a big propeller that kind of pushes it around everywhere, and you can kind of visit it. So it's really cool. So I'm going to start that as our hub, I think, to get everything ready. Now, what am I going to use that shop for? No idea. Probably going to live in it. Maybe store a bunch of junk in there. But it's going to have some different machines and create stuff inside the basement of it. And then as we are going to be adding more buildings to Columbia, each of those, some of those may end up being facades. Some of those may end up being like functional buildings with interiors. A lot of them, though, are just going to be facades to cover farms that we have up in the sky. Because right now, with manually having to harvest everything outside of some of the stone, that was rough. That was extremely rough. So I don't want to have to end up doing that as we're building up all of the infrastructure for Columbia. So anyways, without further ado, let's get started and let's get this built. before we begin, now that I'm on my soapbox, let's talk about Bioshock Infinite's architecture. It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. None of this makes any sense. All right, here we go. This is Hudson's Fine Clothing. So I think I did a really good job of recreating the architecture from Bioshock Infinite. That said, though, the architecture in Bioshock Infinite makes no sense. So this in-game itself, the only accessible area was inside of the shop right here. And so we did try to recreate the shop as best we can. I think the proportions are off, but I mean, considering it's coming from a different game altogether, I got pretty close. And certainly with some of the actual texture artwork from the game itself, that's helped out a lot as well. So we've got some of the posters up here. We have, some of the signage. I know normally there's signage on the front here, but this just didn't look right. And then I made it a few alterations to make this building functional. And the reason I say functional is because in the actual game itself, Bioshock Infinite, there are no doors whatsoever accessing other parts of the building. However, there is a side section right here. There's a whole second story. And then there's just like, this whole section of the building right here that no one can access whatsoever. But being that I'm building this in Minecraft, we have to make sense of all of this. So I had to make some changes. One of those being that this section of the building was angled at a 30-degree angle off into that direction. I don't know why you would ever do that. Buildings aren't built with angles in mind. They're normally very perpendicular walls. So that makes no sense whatsoever to even have it like that. And I think the reason why they did that in the actual game is they're just taking basically 3D models and kind of pushing them together. Along with that, the Latrice engines also don't make any sense. This is actually recreated as closely as I could to the actual game, which includes parts of it clipping through the ground. I don't understand why it would be like that. And then on top of that, they also had another part of the Latrice engine that was attached to this motor that I tried to recreate. And that's where we get our giant fan propeller, which looks so good. It looks so good with pain to glue together, but looked really good. So we have all that accurately recreated. I'm not really sure what these do. A lot of these buildings have these different blimps and fans and whatnot. Doesn't seem to actually do anything because none of it's being held up by the balloons. It's more for aesthetics. But it is a thing that we recreated on that. And then, of course, along with all of that, we have our interiors and the exterior as well. I like this little bit right here. The, I guess, drawbridge or like gate or whatever that normally would be connecting up to the platform. This is kind of a cool detail and shape with our enclosed large cogwheel in there. It actually looks just like the regular game. And then, of course, we have the benches over here in the corner, kind of a little bit squished. Like I said, proportions may not be 100% accurate, but, we've got, the vines on the wall just like in the actual game, as well as I tried recreating the tree the best I could. I think it's a unique shape, so it looks really nice. Then heading on into the inside. Of course, we have our main area right here where we can put up, I think, some clothes, or maybe you'll have armor stands with different armor and some of the relics and whatnot. We can store the relics away in some of these cabinets. Over here is supposed to be the shoe shine station. So that kind of works. So we've got these seats. We can sit down right here, and it kind of recreates that whole shoe shine setup. Now, the first change, of course, I made is that I brought the floors into alignment. So these different floors in the actual build, I think, from Bioshock Infinite were a little bit offset. I think it's like by half a floor. It didn't really make any sense to be like that. So I brought them all into alignment here. And so now we can access this section of the building, which makes more sense. So this could be like a living room, part of the living quarters. So the living room right here. And then downstairs, we have another room also as well, using this cool rectangular wool pattern as the wallpaper. And so we made these double thick walls so we could have the different texture on the inside. Moving back up to the top, though, we have another set of rooms that's accessible through this stairwell. This is going to take us up to, I think, like the bedroom. So we have this. Lots of little details with the engraved ceiling and the beams as well. Just tried to mimic the art style of the game. So that's kind of repeated from what's down in the store itself. This would be very similar to what the roof pattern looks like in the actual Bioshock game. The other thing, though, is I think in the game, this I don't know. It's sort of off center, but that's the way the building actually is. And I know that there's not really any windows over here, but it just looked weird without the windows being added here. So I just wanted to add those in just to give it some more light and whatnot, since we actually have a background in the Bioshock game. The whole back of the building doesn't exist. So I had to kind of like figure out what I wanted it to look like. So I just kind of carried over some of the design in the other parts of the building over to the back and just try to, figure out where things might lie. Same with up here with the different windows and whatnot. I think in the actual building itself in game, there's a window right here, but that also didn't make any sense because, there's not really any spot for a window to be there. And then, of course, also with all that, we can access the roof. So we have roof access up here. Tried to do a little bit of texturing with the different stone types to make it look like soot building up and dirt from up here, especially with our chimneys and whatnot. And then, of course, we can access the very top roof. And we have a similar type of stuff here with the very strange chimney right here, which doesn't really go into anything. We probably need to put like maybe a kitchen down below this or something like that in the living quarters that can kind of tie in with this. I didn't build the gold eagle on top. I just couldn't possibly get an eagle to look right with this scale. It would have to be very small, and even with all the quarter and eighth blocks that we have, it just didn't look very good. So I just left it off, which I think looks fine, and no one's really missing it. But yeah, that's the Hudson's Fine Clothing building. And now I don't really know what I'm going to be using this for outside of probably storage. I did leave down below. We'll go into the basement real quick. I did leave space for some create contraptions. And in fact, running our fan downstairs is a water wheel setup. So if we head on down here, you'll see that these interior base areas, the basements, are completely empty. And so it does leave us room for some create contraptions. And that's what I've done right here as well. I've got our power brought up through the bottom here to attach to this water wheel so we can add some more contraptions in here. I'm not really sure what exactly I'm going to build. But we'll figure something out right there. And then, of course, down the bottom, this ties into our fan setup. So if we hop on down here, we can get down to the fan maintenance. And yeah, it's with one of those rotational shafts that are down there, mechanical bearings. So looks really cool. Definitely not something that we want to stop and start because of the frame blocks. Those don't rotate very well as you're starting and stopping it. I did allow a way to stop this if we need to, and that would be slowing it down. And then there's one side that's marked as a top that allows us to safely stop this, but so far it's been fine. But yeah, so that's we're going to be continuing on with Columbia and the different builds. Certainly this took the longest to come up with the block palette and design for everything, but now that we have that all set up, the rest of the buildings should actually go pretty quickly. Once again, I'm not looking to recreate Columbia one for one because that would be crazy. I can't do that. I don't know how Columbia is laid out. The buildings, once again, a lot of them don't make any sense whatsoever as far as the layout. We may be building some of these, but they're going to be more of like facades to cover up farms. I know we want to get some mob farms for XP going because, as we have our enchanting setup that I've been using. Um, we need a better source of XP other than just killing all of the silverfish. So we'll do that. We'll also create some basic farms so that I'm not manually having to gather everything. Wood farms, stone farms, ores. We want to get that all set up and automated so that we can make the building process go a lot faster, because gathering materials for this, it was painful. But we can't argue with the results. The results are fantastic, and I love the way this looks. But like I said, I need to do some interiors. I still haven't done the interior down at the bottom there for our lighthouse, so we need to do that. Bring in some more of these immersive paintings. I really like these immersive paintings, and being able to bring in some of the textures from the actual game itself to really bring that realism forward. So it should be a lot of fun and very exciting. Can't wait to see what I've come up with next. But I think for right now, that's going to be it for this episode. Just kind of a little bit build heavy, but certainly we're going to see a lot more progress with Columbia come soon. And with that, a lot more create machines, because I know it's been a little light on the create side, a little heavy on the build side, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So until then, safe travels, everybody.